Good evening, beloved. Let us come gently, quietly, as if stepping out of the wind into a sanctuary. We dedicate this hour to God and to the power of silence, not to the power of words, not to the power of effort, but to that everlasting presence that needs no advertising, no persuasion, no arm of flesh to uphold it. We have not come to reach out into space for a God afar. We are consenting to the God within to reveal himself in silence. Be very still. Let the heart say, without strain and without sound, I am here for thee. Reveal thyself as thou art. Stop searching for God. You are his temple. Be still. When you look up, not to the ceiling, not to the sky, but to the height of your own awareness, you discover I and the Father are one. This is not poetry, and it is not pious imagination. It is the eternal fact that has waited only on our consent to be recognized. Nearer than breath, nearer than hands and feet, the infinite invisible abides, and it abides as you, not as a personal possession, not as a private achievement, but as the life that is your life, the mind that is your mind, the being that is your being. We are not going out to find God. We are letting God find us where we are, because in truth we cannot be where God is not. In him we live and move and have our being. Now then, remember this and let it quiet you. Our statements of truth are not the healing agency. They are the doorbell. They are the gentle knock. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that comes after the stating of truth. The declaration, God is the only power, prepares the soil, the silence is the rain. The promise, I will never leave you nor forsake you, anchors the boat. The silence is the tide that lifts it. If you have ever labored to repeat, to insist, to argue truth into place, rest now from that. It is not by might, it is not by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Words prepare, silence heals. Words point, silence performs. Let us name the atmosphere into which we enter. It is safety, it is sacredness, it is assurance. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Be not afraid. There is no second power. God is the only power. There is not a power to oppose him, delay him, interrupt him, or reverse him. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, because there is no weapon fashioned by belief that can penetrate the armor of spirit. And do you see, beloved, the armor of spirit is not something you put on as metal. It is the recognition that where you stand, God stands. Where you breathe, God breathes. Where you rest, God rests as your very life. A story for your heart's reassurance. In a quiet village by the sea, there was an old bell in a chapel. Sailors said that when the fog was thick, they could not see the lighthouse, but they could feel the bell's vibration through their hull, humming through the water. It guided them without a word, without a light. So it is with silence. You may not see with the eyes, you may not hear a sermon with the ears, but the vibration of God's presence, the deep humming of the infinite invisible, guides you to safe harbor. Do not seek the light outside when the bell of spirit is sounding within. Be still, and you will feel it. As we begin, let us turn inward with the simplest of recognitions. God is the only power. All that God made is good. All that God made is finished and complete in its goodness, and it is present here. Lo, I am with you unto the end of the world. If a fear whispers at the threshold about help, supply, relationships, answer it not with combat, but with quiet recognition. This fear is no power. God is the only power. This appearance is not causative. God alone is cause. Say it softly, and then be silent. After each truth, rest. After each promise, rest. Let the silence place the seal upon it. Right here is both God and man. Right here is the temple of the living God. You need not travel by thought to ascend to him. You need not scour memory for perfect phrases to please him. Consent, that is our part. Consent to be still. Consent to be loved. Consent to be carried. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Hear it as now, not as then, as presence, not as history. And if a part of you says, I do not feel it yet, be unconcerned. Feeling is not the gate, consent is the gate. The Spirit of God is upon me. The Spirit of God is upon you. The Spirit of God is upon us in silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence. He does the work. So we open this hour with empty hands and an open heart. We release images of a God to be located, a good to be acquired, a health to be manufactured. We rest in the fact that fulfillment is the nature of God revealing itself as the life we are. Let this be our inner whisper. Father, here am I. Speak, for thy servant heareth. And then, beloved, do not strive to hear. Be still. The hearing will happen in the place where you are not trying to listen. The healing will happen where you are not trying to be healed. God is the only power. God is here. God is now. And this still, holy awareness is the temple within. Before we proceed any further, let us take the one step without which no prayer can rest in God. We remove from our hearts and minds the ancient superstition of a second power. God is the only power. Hear it again, not as a slogan, but as a fact that dissolves fear. There is no such thing anywhere at any time as an opposing power. Not in the body, not in the bank, not in the world, not in the news, not in memory. All that God made is good. And all that God made, being God expressed, carries no element that can resist God. God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. If I accept two powers, I enthrone fear as teacher. If I abide in one, I consent to God's own being to teach me by silence. I and the Father are one. This is not bravado. This is returning to the only foundation upon which real prayer can stand. Consider then the things that have seemed to trouble you: disease, lack, conflict, personal enmity, the dread of loss. Each arrives with a voice that claims authority. Each announces, I have power to harm. But in the light of the one, we see their boast is borrowed. Disease is not a power. A germ is not a power. An X-ray, a diagnosis, a sensation, no power. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Not because I am strong, not because I argue myself into courage, but because thou art with me. Presence is power. Appearance is a shadow. Lack is not a power. A ledger line in red ink is not a power. Economic wins, employment statistics, the ticking of dates on a calendar, no power. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Conflict is not a power. Personal animosity, rumor, insult, the frown on the face, no power. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Notice it does not say that no weapon will be formed. It says it shall not prosper. It cannot prosper because it has no life from God with which to prosper. As a matter of fact, the only life these appearances seem to have is the life we lend by believing in them. Let us make it very simple. A child walks into a room and sees lying on the floor a serpent, striped, coiled, menacing. The child screams, the heart races, tears come. The parent stoops, lifts it, and smiles. It is a toy serpent, plastic, harmless. Do you see? The object itself never contained a power to cause fear. The fear arose from the belief about it. The toy serpent did not act upon the child's heart. The suggestion entertained did. Take the same child to that same room after the truth is known, and there is no scream, no running, no sweat. The serpent was never a serpent. The fear was never authority. It was mistaken belief. So it is with the appearances that parade before us: disease, lack, conflict. They have only the breath we give them. Withdraw belief, their story ends. Withdraw the contract with fear, the performance stops mid-stage. Now then, how do we withdraw that contract? Not by combat, not by hurling affirmations as spears, not by hating the appearance into submission. Remember the Master's instruction: resist not evil. Why? Because in the very act of resistance you acknowledge a reality, a power, a cause. We do not resist, we recognize. We do not fight, we see through. We do not brace, we release. Gently, quietly, we look upon the appearance and we say within ourselves, this is not a power. God is the only power. God alone is cause, and God causes only God, not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Our agreement is not with fear. Our agreement is with the infinite, invisible, that is present right here, closer than breath. There are those moments when the body speaks loudly, when the pocketbook looks thin, when a relationship aches. In those moments, give no hearing to panic. Turn again to one. Lo, I am with you always unto the end of the world. Lo, here, now, in this instant of seeming threat, presence is. Lo, in this sigh, in this breath, in this unguarded second, God is. Make this your inner movement. Father, open thou mine eyes that I may see, not the storm, but thy allness. And then be very still after the recognition, silence, after the naming of one, silence. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows the stating of truth. We are not trying to force stillness to do our bidding. We are retiring from the pretense that we ever had to bid at all. Let me show you another way to see it. At dusk, a rope is seen as a snake. In the dim light, the heart leaps, the feet jump back, but when the lamp is brought near, the rope is seen as rope. The lamp did not kill a serpent. There was no serpent to kill. The lamp simply revealed what already was so. In our practice, truth is the lamp, silence is the space in which it shines, and the appearance is rendered what it always was, without power, without cause, without life in God. Do you see the tenderness in this? There is no enemy to conquer, no devil to chase, no second mind to outwit. There is only light revealing light. And you, the temple of the living God, permitting that revelation to happen by standing aside from belief in two powers. Remember, therefore, before our prayer, we do this interior house cleaning. We lay down every weapon, every argument, every superstition of a second power. We say quietly, this fear is not power. God is the only power. This symptom, this letter, this phone call, this memory, no power. God is the only power. We are not persuading God to be God. We are consenting to see God as God is, all in all. In Him we live and move and have our being. Where then could another power stand? On what ground could it plant its feet? In what air could it breathe? There is no place outside of God in which a second cause can act. And with this recognition, a holy ease comes. Not the ease of human optimism, not the thrill of a lucky turn, but the solemn, quiet assurance of one presence, one power, one life, unfolding itself as the very life you are. Feel how safe this is. Feel how practical this is. When you next confront an appearance, let your first act be to withdraw belief. Say nothing aloud if you like. Simply rest in the inner fact, God is the only power. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. And then, beloved, let silence keep the rest. The seal is placed upon our recognition not by louder speech, but by softer breathing. Thus, when we enter prayer, we do not enter as beggars at a strange gate. We enter as sons and daughters in the house of one, where no second power can knock, because there is no door to it, no corridor, no room. One presence, one power, and so it is. Now, beloved, let us take up the holy promises, not as relics to be admired, not as souvenirs of a God who once acted, but as garments to be worn now. Wear them as you would a robe of warmth on a winter night. Wear them as you would the air itself, unseen yet utterly present. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Here it is God speaking within your own being at this very instant. Not, lo, I am with you always. Not above us, not beyond us, with us, always. Which means in this breath, in this room, in whatever condition the senses report, and no weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. It may be formed, it may rattle and clatter to gain your attention, but it cannot prosper, for it has no life of God with which to prosper. These are not charms to ward off danger. These are revelations of one presence and one power, and they anchor attention until silence assumes its own work. Make this your rhythm. Speak a promise softly within, and then be still. Let the inner voice say, I will never leave you nor forsake you, and then retire into quiet. Do not reach for a feeling. Do not look for a sign. Be still. Again, let the heart whisper, lo, I am with you always, and again rest. Do you see? The promise brings the mind to the gate. The silence ushers you in. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Say it as truth, not as a challenge to an enemy, and again withdraw into the hush. The seal is placed upon the promise, not by repeating it louder, but by allowing the power of God to be made manifest in the silence after the stating of truth. Words prepare, silence performs. Words point, silence heals. Take the Psalms as posture. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. This is not a march of bravado. It is a resting posture even while the feet move. The valley may look like a doctor's report, a legal notice, a late-night solitude that presses. It is a shadow. It is not a cause. The posture is this: I will fear no evil. Why? Not because I will out-argue it, not because I will outshout it, but because thou art with me. Let that be your inner stance as you cross your kitchen, as you sit in a meeting, as you answer the phone. Thou art with me. And then silent. Let the words sit in the heart like seed in good earth, while the rain of the Spirit does what no gardener's hand can do. Let acts be our atmosphere. In him we live and move and have our being. If we live and move and have our being in God, there is no corridor outside of him through which a second power may approach. There is no air uninhabited by God in which fear may breathe. We are in God as the fish is in the sea, as the bird is in the air. We cannot leave him for the next street over, nor can we go to find him as if he were missing from this one. Feel this, not as an effort, but as a simple fact. In him I live. In him I move. In him I am. Speak it softly. Then be very quiet. Let the breath come and go, and know without thinking much about it that in this very exchange of air, God is the life, God is the movement, God is the being. The promise has done its work of attention. Now silence completes what attention began. There is a little tale from a village lane. A blacksmith hammered through the night, shaping a blade. The sound was fierce, and the children trembled under their quilts, imagining battles at dawn. But morning revealed a simple pruning hook, harmless in its purpose. The terror lay not in the iron, but in the thought the listeners supplied. So it is when rumor forges its metal, when a letter strikes the table, when a sensation knocks at the door of the body. You will hear the forging. You may see the blade as if it were sharpened against you, but hear the promise: no weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Say it once as recognition, not as defiance. Then close the inner lips and be quiet. You have withdrawn belief. Leave the rest to God. The Spirit will reveal whether there was any blade at all, and if there was a tool, it will be found turned to some harmless service, for there is no second power to animate harm. Practice this as a gentle cadence through the day. On waking, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Then wait in stillness, even for a breath or two. At midday, when the world asks you to hurry, in Him we live and move and have our being, then stop inwardly and let the movement be God's. When evening shadows lengthen, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Then set your heart down into quiet and let the presence verify itself. After each promise, the pause. After each assurance, the hush. Do not measure the silence with a clock. Measure it with consent. Your part is to remember and to rest. God's part is to be what God is, all in all. And if there comes a moment when you say, I do not feel anything at all, remember that feelings are not the barometer of God. Promise is the barometer of God. And promise fulfilled is found not in sensation, but in realization. We are training attention to abide where reality already is. The promise gathers the scattered birds of thought back to the branch. The silence lets them settle their wings. Thus anchored, we discover that what we sought was never absent. The infinite invisible, nearer than breath, stands revealed as the very life that lives us. Wear these promises now. Wear them here. Wear them as you would the robe of spirit, and let the stillness place its seal. God is the only power. God is here. God is now. And in that holy assurance, be still. Now let us make the one recognition for which the promises have prepared our hearts. God is not to be reached, sought, or summoned. God is, and God is here. Be still and know that I am God. Not another God on a distant throne, not a power to be signaled from a far-off star, but the I, that is the life of you, the mind of you, the very being of you. I and the Father are one. Hear it again, gently, without strain. This is not presumption. It is not religious bravado. It is the simple, eternal fact that awakens when we cease traveling outward and rest where reality already is. Nearer than breath, nearer than hands and feet, the infinite invisible stands revealed as the core of your own awareness. We are not becoming something. We are recognizing what is already so. This is the temple of the living God, this very consciousness in which you are hearing these words. Not a building, not stone, not stained glass, consciousness. I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Do you see the tenderness of that promise? Not I will visit you, I will dwell in you. The Holy of Holies is not behind a curtain in a far sanctuary. It is the innermost of you, the quiet center, where there is no argument, no urgency, no second power. Right here is both God and man. Right here, the Father expressing as Son, the invisible appearing as the visible life you are. We do not have to climb to this. We do not have to deserve this. We do not have to perfect the human self to qualify for it. We consent, we recognize, we rest. Consider the breath that comes and goes even now. You do not order it forward. You do not push it away. It moves in grace. Closer than that rhythm is the presence that lives you. You cannot step outside of it to fetch it. You cannot walk far enough to leave it. In him we live and move and have our being. As the wave cannot forsake the ocean to prove it has a separate life, as the ray cannot break from the sun to prove independence, so you cannot be absent from God, nor can God be absent from you. If you were to take the longest journey, you would arrive only at the place where you began within the one. If you were to plumb the deepest question, it would end not in an answer, but in a presence that is answer itself. Let your inner gaze rest in this simple seeing. Wherever I am, the presence and the power of God is with me, yes, but more than with me, as me. Do not stumble at the as. We are not magnifying a personal ego. We are recognizing the impersonal I that says within, I am. The Master did not say, I and a far God are in partnership. He said, I and the Father are one. The apostle did not boast when he confessed, I live. Yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. He unveiled the secret of life. The I that lives is the life of God being itself as you. Let that be your gaze. Not a mental picture, not a forced visualization, but a quiet consent to the fact that this awareness, the witness, the capacity to know and to be is the temple. And in that temple, God is both worshipped and the one who worships. God is the life, the light, the love that fills it. If a thought arises, let me try to feel this. Release the trying. Feeling is not the gate. God is the gate. Recognition is the gate. If another thought whispers, I must hold on or I will lose him, answer with a smile, where could I place a hand upon God to hold him? Where could I put God down to lose him? He is closer than the hand. He is nearer than the breath. We do not clutch omnipresence. We rest in it. We do not persuade it to remain. It is the one that says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Let those words fall softly and then be very still. In the hush after recognition, the power of God is made manifest not by our effort, but by its own being. The shift that occurs here is holy and unstrained. We cease to be seekers, traveling toward a distant altar. We are the altar. We cease to be students collecting sacred sayings. We are the place where the Word is made flesh. We cease to be petitioners at a gate. We are the gate through which love steps into visibility. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Say it without drama, without display, as a simple fact, and then rest. The robe of spirit is not woven by human discipline. It is donned by recognition, not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. In this Spirit we find not an armor for battle, but the end of battle. For where one is all, there is no second to oppose. Carry this seeing without strain. As you rise, as you sit, as you cross the threshold of any room, let the inner word precede you. Here God is, as the life I am. Then be quiet again. If a memory of lack or illness, of conflict or timeline tries to claim a perch in your thought, give it no quarrel. Let it pass the way a shadow passes across a wall when the sun moves. There is no substance to the shadow. The substance is light. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, not because I am skillful with affirmations, but for thou art with me. With me, in me, as may one. In this recognition, beloved, we are home without traveling. The floor beneath your feet is ordinary. The awareness within is holy. That which looks out through your eyes, that which hears, that which knows, is the I that is God being God. Let the mind unclench and the heart grow quiet. Consent to be what you cannot not be. the temple of the living God. And in that holy ease, silence, stillness, quietness, confidence, let God be God. Now let us be very simple, very quiet, and very practical. If the promise has gathered us to the gate, how do we let the silence usher us in? How do we pray without effort? We begin with consent, not the consent of a strained will, but the consent of a child who opens the hand when a gift is placed upon the palm. Make for yourself a sacred word of consent, nothing elaborate, nothing charged with effort, perhaps Father, perhaps peace, perhaps the gentle command already given to us, be still. This is not a mantra to be fought for, nor a charm to be wielded against a foe. It is only the lightest touch that says, I am here and I consent. Speak it within as you would lay a feather upon still water, and then let the feather float. After the word silence, after the consent, letting, remember again, not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Your posture is part of your prayer, not as a ritual to please God, but as a way to say to the body, you are safe, you may rest. Sit upright in ease, not rigid with determination and not collapsed in weariness. Let the spine rise as a stem lifting the blossom of the head. Relax the hands. Open them in your lap if you like, not grasping and not fending. Let the brow soften, let the jaw unclick. And then, with a friendliness toward your own breath, do not manage it, receive it, let it come as it has always come, without your command, without your engineering. In Him we live and move and have our being. Feel that quietly, that in this very breath God lives Himself as you. You are not drawing air, life is drawing you. You are not pumping the bellows. Spirit is breathing its own peace. The body is not your adversary. It is the temple of the living God, and peace in the temple is part of prayer. When thoughts come, and they will be not surprised and be not stern. The mind has been a marketplace. Let it become a sanctuary without closing the doors upon itself. Sensations will appear, memories will show their faces, a plan will knock, an old conversation will ask to be replayed. Do not fight, do not fix, do not follow. Resist not evil. Why? Because there is no second power to be resisted. To resist gives it life. To watch in peace withdraws that life. If you find yourself carried away on a thought, the moment you notice you are away is already a moment of grace. Gently, without scolding, return to the sacred word, Father, peace, be still as one touches the bell at the inner gate, then release even that word and allow the silence to do its work. The word is the doorbell, the silence is the host. The word announces consent. The silence is God consenting to be God. Do not keep the word running like a mill wheel. Use it as needed and then rest. If the mind drifts, consent again. If it rests, do not stir it with unnecessary speech. There are no grades here, no measure of success, no stopwatch at the altar. We are training attention to abide where reality always is. A bird perched on a branch lifts and resettles its wings. So too your attention may lift and return. Each return is itself a prayer. Each return is a quiet amen to one presence and one power. Each time you notice a sensation and neither fear it nor fondle it, you are withdrawing the contract with a second cause. You are saying, without drama, God is the only power and I rest. Some will say, but should I not declare truth while I sit? Yes, but know the order. Voicing the truth prepares. The healing agency is the silence that follows. Let a few simple recognitions rise at the beginning. God is the only power. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Lo, I am with you always. Speak them softly within, not to stir the pool, but to arrive at its edge. And then be still, and know that I am God. In that knowing, you do not think God, you do not picture God, you do not feel for God, you rest, and God reveals God. The seal is placed on the treatment through our silence. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows the stating of truth. If a new wave of thought rises, touch the sacred word again like a hand to the latch, and then let go. Not by might, not by power, but by my spirit. If a sensation flares in the body, be unconcerned. You are not its healer, you are not its judge. You are the temple, and the presence within the temple is the physician. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. You are not ignoring. You are beholding without granting power. If a worry whispers about time, about results, about whether anything is happening, remember it is already happening in God. Results belong to God. Consent belongs to you. Do not look for fireworks. Look for nothing, and in that nothing the all reveals. Feel the robe of spirit about you, not as imagination, but as a gentle dignity that keeps you from lunging at appearances. The Spirit of God is upon me. Say it once and be quiet. This is how we pray without effort. We consent, we return, and we rest. We take the simplest word and make of it a key, not a cudgel. We sit in upright ease, we receive the breath, we do not manage life, for life is managing us. We do not fight, fix, or follow thoughts. We let them float on by as shadows on the wall of a house that has its lamps lit within. We place a few truths at the threshold, and then we are very still, allowing silence to perform what words cannot. Beloved, God performs the work. God is the only power. In silence, in stillness, in quietness, in confidence, it is accomplished. And so we learn to pray as the temple prays, without strain and without fear, only with consent and return, until the temple itself seems to disappear and only presence remains nearer than breath living us. Now we stand at the quiet door. We do not push, we do not plead. We let the word place our hand upon the latch, and we allow silence to open. Begin with this: God is the only power. Say it softly within, not to stir the waters, but to arrive at the shore. Then be still. Let the words fall away as a petal falls onto still water and is carried without effort. Do not wait for a sign. Do not listen for an echo. Simply be still and know. Again, when the mind is settled a little, let the inner voice whisper, I and the Father are one. Not a declaration to win a battle, but a recognition that ends all battle. Then let it fade. Let the sentence dim like a lamp after dawn has come, not forced, but naturally relinquished, because light is here. Sit within that hush and do nothing. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows the stating of truth. If a thought taps your shoulder, do not scold it and do not follow it. Touch your sacred word as one would touch the bell at the inner gate. Father, peace, be still, and let the bell fall quiet again. Now, a third time, with the gentleness of a breath, the Spirit of God is upon me. Speak it without drama, as fact. Then let the phrase dissolve back into the stillness from which it arose. As a wave returns to the sea, let the sentence return to silence. The word has done its work. It has brought you to the threshold. The host will do his work. He will usher you through. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. Say it once only if you must. Then let even that comfort loosen and slip away into quiet. We cross the threshold not by carrying words, but by laying them down. If in this crossing there is a temptation to help the silence, to prop it up with more speech, smile inwardly and refrain, we are not holding God in place. We are resting in the one who says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Consent is enough. Consent and the gentle return, and the letting be. When stray thoughts bloom, they are like children at the church door. Acknowledge their presence with kindness and let them play outside, while within the temple remains in holy hush. There is no second power knocking. There is only one presence closer than breath, nearer than hands and feet, already within the sanctuary. Let this be our timed descent, not by a clock, but by surrender. One step and stillness. One recognition and release. One breath and quiet. God is the only power. Silence. I and the Father are one. Silence. The Spirit of God is upon me. Silence. If the body speaks, do not answer with argument. Answer with no answer at all. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And then let even the psalm repose in God. The shadow has no tongue in the sanctuary. Only light speaks, and it speaks by being. We are not leaving the world. We are letting the world be carried within God while we rest in God. Words have brought us here. Now we let silence take up the work. Cross with me now, without fanfare, without proof-seeking, without any handrail but presence. Let the last word fall away of its own accord. Let the breath come and go by grace. Let the mind be as a still pool into which nothing is thrown. We pass from speaking to being, from naming to knowing, from outer hearing to inner communion. The door is open. The host is here. Be very still and let God be God. Now we do the one thing needful. We do not go out to seek. We retire within to consent. Let the body take its ease. Let the hands rest where they will, unguarded and ungrasping. Let the brow soften. Let the breath be as it has always been given and received, without your engineering. We are not here to make something happen. We are here to be very still and to let God be God. Lightly, with the lightness of a leaf touching a still pond, let the sacred word rise only enough to say within, I consent. Perhaps it is Father, perhaps it is peace, perhaps only be still. Touch it once, and then let the inner waters remain undisturbed. The presence is nearer than breath, nearer than hands and feet. Do not try to reach what is already here. Be still and know that I am God. There is no power to oppose this silence. God is the only power. The mind may bring forward a fragment of yesterday. The body may bring forward a flicker of sensation. The world may bring forward echoes of its commerce. Do not contend. Do not resist. To resist is to grant a second life to what has none. If a thought alights, do as you would with a bird that settles for a moment on a windowsill. See it and let it lift in its own time. If you find you have followed it for a few steps, this too is nothing. The moment you notice, return with the slightest touch of your sacred word, and let even that touch fade again. Our part is consent and return. God's part is all the rest. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Let us feel the holiness of ordinariness now. The breath comes, the breath goes. You do not manufacture it, you receive it. In him we live and move and have our being. Let that be a quiet fact, not a thought to grip. In this receiving breath, God lives himself as us. In this movement of chest and rib, the one life reveals its own rhythm. Feel how close, how without distance this life is. Closer than the air it uses, nearer than the pulse it moves. The infinite, invisible abides. We do not lean forward to get it. We do not lift a mental hand to hold it. We rest in it, and we find that it has been resting in us. If there is a whisper within that says, I must keep this stillness from breaking. Smile and be kinder, yet you are not the keeper of God. God is the keeper of you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Let the phrase speak once, as if God himself were voicing it from your own center, and then let even that phrase dissolve into the hush. The seal is placed on the treatment through our silence. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows the stating of truth. Therefore, speak nothing more. Be, consent, rest. Allow an image only as a doorway, and then do not walk about holding the door. A lamp in a quiet room does not argue with the shadows. It simply shines. So do not argue with any shadow that tries to pass on the wall of thought. Be lit within, and the shadow's tongue falls still. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? For thou art with me. Say it inwardly once as recognition, not as a warding spell, and then retire again into the quiet presence. The valley is a shadow. God is the substance, and God is the only power. As the minutes unfold, see how little is asked of you. No grim holding, no spiritual acrobatics, no calendar kept by the ego, only this. When you notice you have wandered, return with the gentlest word and release. When you feel at rest, remain at rest. If you sense a softening within the heart, let it be. If you sense only quiet ordinariness, let it be. We are not chasing experiences. We are not manufacturing lights. We are abiding as the temple of the living God, and in the temple all true work is God's. Lo, I am with you always. Whisper it once, and then let the words sink below the surface. The always does not need your proof. It needs only your unresistant consent. Think of the mind as a room that has been busy all day. Now the guests have departed. The chairs are set straight. The lamps are low. You need not stand watch at the door to keep the world out. You need only sit within and let the quiet be what it is. If a guest knocks, you need not throw the bolt or shout through the wood. Let the knock be a sound in the air. It has no power to define the room. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. If there is a sound that seems like the forging of a weapon, hear it and be unalarmed. It cannot prosper. It has no life of God by which to prosper. Say the promise once within, and then be still. Leave the rest to God. Now even the sacred word begins to grow light, faint as a feather that has found the surface and lies still. Use it only when you need it, and do not need it until you do. The river knows how to flow without your push. The breath knows how to move without your count. The silence, which is not the absence of God, but the mode of God's self-revealing, knows how to heal, to order, to make whole, without your plan. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, not in assertion, not in defense. In quietness, in confidence, in silence. We are not working upon a condition. We are not working upon a person. We are not even working upon a mind. We are consenting to God, and God is omnipresent, being omnipotent, life, omniscient, mind. If a sensation enters the field, as a wind crosses a meadow, be the meadow, not the wind. Let it pass. Do not chase it with analysis. Do not press it with denial. Do not bless it with attention. Attention is the coin with which you buy what appears at the stall. Spend no coin on the seller of tales. Sit within and let the stillness be your commerce. God is the only power. Be very silent. As the quiet deepens, it may feel as if the borders of you have grown soft. You are not dissolving into a void. You are resting into the fullness out of which you have always lived. I and the Father are one. This is not two joined by agreement. It is one being one. The wave does not strain to be ocean. It recognizes its oceanness. If the mind offers, now I have it, loosen even that, there is nothing to have. There is only the holy to be. The best word now is no word. The best act now is no act. The best knowledge now is not knowing, but knowingness, presence being itself without commentary. Feel how sacredly ordinary the room is, the sound in the distance, the breath, the weight of the body on its seat. None of it needs your management. In the temple, even the sparrow finds a house and the swallow a nest. Every part of your experience can rest within God. If something in you wants to fetch a scripture, let it be brief, and let it be a stepping stone that sinks beneath the surface when your foot is passed. Be still and know that I am God. Be still, know God. Then drop the syllables and keep the knowing. If memory knocks an old grievance with its story already on its tongue, do not open the account. No debt here is collectible. Grace has settled all ledgers long before you counted time. You need not go out to meet the collector with arguments. Sit with the stillness. The sound will fade. The shadow will loosen. Always remember this. There is no such thing anywhere at any time as an evil force or evil power. The only power is God, and God is this presence, now, within and as the very awareness that knows itself. Thus we are safe without effort, whole without pleading, supplied without bargaining. Make now your posture of complete uneffort. Do not even look to see if quiet is increasing. Do not balance yourself on a scale. Receive what is. Let what is be God. The simplest faith is the truest faith, because it is simply resting in what is ever present. I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. This indwelling is not a visit. It is the life of life. It does not require agreement from the senses. It does not require the mind's signature. It is accomplished in God, by God, as God. Now, if any impulse arises to think a holy thought, notice the impulse and let it pass. The time for holy thoughts has done its work. Now is the holy itself. Let silence be the only activity. Let silence be prayer, be presence, be healing, be answer. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. Feel how these lines are not instructions but descriptions of what God does. Lie down within, be led, be restored. Do not try to construct the pasture. Do not try to lead the river. Do not try to restore yourself. God is the only power. We are very still. As the quiet thickens into a sweetness without edges, trust it. If there is nothing to report, this is grace. If there is a tender warmth, this is grace. If there is a profound ordinariness, this is grace. All that matters is that we are consenting to God's isness. The mind may seek to bargain. Shall this mend my health, bring me supply, ease my relation, place no condition at the altar? The altar is holy because nothing is on it but God. When God is God, everything that appears adjusts to the isness of love. The demonstration belongs to silence. The recognition belongs to you. Recognize and rest. There is a great hush now that is not of human manufacture. We could call it peace, but it is more intimate than a word. We could call it life, but it is more ancient than a definition. It is the I that is God being the I that is you without any seam. The apostle found himself saying, I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. He did not learn a sentence. He discovered a fact that cannot be shaken. Let that discovery arise without your help. We cannot paddle our way into it. We can only sit upon the still waters and be born. If your attention lifts and flutters away, the moment you notice is a homecoming. Touch the sacred word with the lightest hand. Father, peace, be still, and then let even that hand rest upon your lap again. Imagine you are in a house where every room is quiet and every door is open. You need not close the doors to have the quiet. You need only remain at ease. This is our dwelling, and the one who dwells, dwells as the quiet itself. Fear not, be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. Say it once if comfort is needed, and then release even the comfort into the larger ease that holds all comforts and all needs. Now let us pass beyond even the use of images and phrases. They have been our friends and have brought us here. We do not discard them. We simply set them gently on the sill to rest, while we go in without carrying them. You may notice a sensation in the chest like a widening. You may notice nothing but a kind of unknowing. Allow it. We are not collecting experiences. We are consenting to the presence that is experience itself. No asking now, no affirming, only the realized presence. Before they call, I will answer, and while they are yet speaking, I will hear. The hearing is already here. The answering is already complete in the isness of God. This is the seal upon our prayer. We have stated truth lightly and let it fall. We have returned when wandering, and let even the return become too much, and so let it fade. Now there is only this being. Do not ask it to speak. Do not ask it to shine. Do not ask it to heal. Do not ask it to prove. Let it be itself. In that letting, you will find that you are not someone letting a thing be. You are the being that is God being. Language falls short here. That is well. Let the shortness be itself a silence. Time, if it is passing, passes within God. We are not watching a clock. We are being without measure. If you feel the mind calling you to take attendance, to notice how still, how deep, how present, leave attendance uncalled. God is not more God in minute 15 than in minute 1. God is God. We who have practiced our consent and our return now practice not even that. We rest. The breath moves itself. The heart beats itself. The world turns itself. The presence is presence. Be very silent. God is the only power. Be very silent. God is the only presence. Be very silent. God is the only life. Let these be not words, but the already fact of your being. Let the tongue of the mind lie still against the palate of the soul. Nothing needs commentary. Nothing needs assistance. Nothing needs inspection. The Holy of Holies is unlit by the candles of intellect and yet fully bright. Rest there. If a trace of fear flares, let it be a small wave on a great sea. Do not name it. Do not wage upon it. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. The shadow has no voice here. The host is here. The table is set in the presence of any enemy, and the enemy forgets its path. The cup runs over, not by measurement, but by nature. Goodness and mercy follow, not because we demand them, but because we are within the one out of which they are expressions. Be still. We cannot add to this. We cannot improve it. We cannot hold it by effort, and we cannot lose it by accident. It is what it is, and it is all. Let the heart yield its last defenses now. If there is any inward gesture of gripping, even the subtle grip upon peace, let the hand unclasp and rest open again. We are not acquiring a state. We are unmasking the state that never changed. From everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. And here, in the simplicity of being, thou art the I that I am. Let the silence finish its own prayer in you. Let it say without syllable what cannot be said and yet is known. Let it touch without sensation what cannot be touched and yet is felt. Let it heal without operation what never needed healing in truth and yet finds its outward harmony restored. The spirit breathes its own freedom. The mind yields. The body is quiet. The room is a temple because you are the temple of the living God, and God dwells here. If you find the impulse to seal this moment with a word, let it be the faintest whisper of acknowledgement, not to stir the lake, but to receive what has been given forever. Amen means so be it, and it has been so from before your first breath. Or let there be no word at all. Let there be only the living amen of silence in silence. This is the seal upon the prayer. Do not rise inwardly. Remain seated within, even as the body in a little while may rise. Keep the line unbroken, not by concentrated strain, but by the same ease that has held you all along. God is the only power. The power of God is made manifest in the silence after the stating of truth. We have stated what needed saying. We have rested in what needed no saying. Now, in these last moments, let there be only God. No question, no plan, no report. Only God, the one without second. The life that is life, the love that is love, the mind that is mind, the I that is I, be very silent. And if, as we come to the brink of movement again, a small thought peeks in to ask, what now? Answer it without voice. Now we continue in this without breaking the line, but do not turn this into tomorrow. Let it be now. The presence is always now. Lo, I am with you always, always in this breath, always in this room, always in this life that is God's life. Be still. Beloved, without moving a thing in the inner chamber, notice that the hush holds. It is not fragile. It is not dependent upon posture or place. It is the nature of being. We will not break it by walking. We will not seal it by sitting. It is sealed in God. Let us keep to this holy ease. Let us remain robed in spirit, not as costume, but as our own identity, quiet, fearless, gentle. But these are words that belong to the next step, here, now, only, silence. Let silence complete the work. Let God be God and rest. Now, beloved, do not break the silence by leaping to your feet or reaching for words. Let the hush that has held you continue to hold you. The seal is placed on the prayer through our silence, and the prayer is not finished because a clock has moved. It is finished when God has finished. Open the senses as you would lift a curtain at dawn, slowly, reverently, consenting to light without disturbing the room. If the eyes open, let them rest on what is near without naming it. If the hands move, let them move in grace, as if the robe of spirit still rests upon the shoulders. We are not leaving the temple to return to life. We are allowing life to be lived within the temple. Keep the line unbroken. Let the interior word remain unvoiced, the simple awareness. God is the only power. Offer no report to yourself. Offer no verdict on how well or how poorly you have prayed. A single quiet thank you within no embroidery, no speech about it, and then be quiet again. Gratitude is not a flare we send into the sky. It is the soft acknowledgement that the worker has worked and will continue to work. Lo, I am with you always. Let that be the benediction you do not say aloud. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Let that be the atmosphere as you sit another moment, as you breathe another breath. Not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. The seal remains intact when our emergence is as gentle as our descent. We do not come out to discuss silence. We come out to demonstrate. Do not hurry to analyze what has transpired. Do not pluck the seed to check its roots. In the quiet, the Spirit has planted. In the hours to come, fruit will appear without strain. Clarity where confusion seemed to reign. Ease where tension was. A soft answer turning away wrath. A body made calm without argument. In Him we live and move and have our being. Let your moving be within that being. If a worry knocks at the threshold as you rise, answer not with speech but with recognition. There is no second power here. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, not as a shield raised in fear, but a simple light revealing there was no adversary with life in it. Resist not, rest. Withdrawal of belief is your only defense, because God is the only power. Keep practical about this. When you stand, do so without jolting the inner hush. When you speak, let a breath of silence precede your words, so that speech issues from presence and not from reflex. When you walk to the door, do not outrun the companion. Go with him, in him, as him. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because the line is unbroken. Because the shepherd did not remain in the sanctuary while you went to market. He walks in you and as you. The outer world may make its familiar clamor. Let it clamor. You are not dependent on its weather. Your climate is God. If someone asks what happened, be content to smile and to keep your treasure hidden in God. The authority of silence does not seek publicity. It seeks expression. Let the day itself become your statement. Meet what appears with the gentleness that has met you. Where irritation used to rise, let stillness answer. Where rushing used to drive, let rhythm guide. And if before the day is done a thought of danger, lack, or conflict presents itself, let the inner knowing be immediate and quiet. One presence, one power. No weapon shall prosper. Then no more words. Rest again in the line you have not broken. This is the seal on our prayer. Emergence that does not end communion. We are carried from stillness into motion without leaving stillness, as a wave moves without leaving the sea. We do not return to a human life to try to remember God. We walk on as the temple of the living God, indwelt and upheld. Be not afraid. The Spirit of God is upon me. Let gratitude glow, but do not fan it into speech. Let simplicity govern the next thing and the next. And as you go, keep the inner hush as your lamp, your robe, your quiet certainty that God is the only power and the work goes on. Now we rise and go, but we do not leave the sanctuary. We go as the sanctuary. Let this be your inner seeing as you put hand to doorknob, as you step onto the street, as you enter the next room. You are robed in spirit, not a costume for display, not an armor for strife, but the armor of light that neither strikes nor shields, for there is no foe. Put ye on the Lord Jesus Christ. Arise, shine, for thy light is come. The robe is recognition. The light is love. The sanctuary is your own indwelt awareness. Be not afraid. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Say it once and be very quiet. Let the garment rest upon you as a still assurance. You are not wearing this to fight. You are wearing this to shine. God is the only power. Wherever I am, the presence and power of God is. Let that be your step-by-step remembrance. With the first footfall outside this room, wherever I am, the presence and power of God is. As you look into the eyes of the next person, wherever I am, the presence and power of God is. When the phone rings and the name on the screen awakens an old story, wherever I am, the presence and power of God is. Not as a charm, not as an argument, but as the quiet climate of your being. The weather of the world may be storm, but your climate is God. Now watch how the scenes of the day are transfigured, not because you force a perspective, but because you carry presence as your only atmosphere. You sit down in a meeting where plans are debated and forecasts loom like clouds. Do not brace, do not become clever. Let a breath of silence precede your words. Let your robe rest. Let the light do its own speaking. If you must speak, let your sentence be born of stillness and return to stillness when it is done. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit. Then listen, not with ears trained for advantage, but with the inner ear trained to recognize the one working as all. In that atmosphere, A harsh voice softens, a rigid position melts, a solution appears where there seemed to be none without your managing it. The healing agency is not your strategy, it is the silence in which you abide. At noon, the news speaks of danger, markets falling, storms gathering, conflict simmering. Let it speak its peace, and let your heart answer with no answer. God is the only power. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. You are not required to take sides. You are required to abide. Withdraw belief from threat without withdrawing compassion from those who fear. Hold the world in God without trying to hold God in the world. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Not as a hand raised to block, but as light revealing there is no adversary with life in it. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, then be still again. Perhaps a sensation rises in the body, tightness across the brow, a flutter in the chest, a twinge where memory says trouble. Do not wrestle. Do not assign it a name and a power. Remember who abides in the temple. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Lay the sensation in the sanctuary without verdict. Let the presence that indwells the temple do what presence has always done, be itself. If the mind tries to reassert an old diagnosis, answer gently, there are not two powers here, only one. Wherever I am, the presence and power of God is. Then no more speech. Rest again in the inner hush, even if only for the span of a single breath. The robe of spirit does not wrinkle under weather. It rests. You cross a threshold you have crossed 1,000 times, your office door, your kitchen, the grocery aisle, and you pause as one entering holy ground, because it is holy when you enter as temple. Do not make a show of it. Let the pause be inward. A hand on the cart handle, a smile that answers a hurried stranger, a calm that refuses to be bartered by noise, these become your liturgy. Let your light so shine before men, not that they may applaud you, but that love may find its own reflection, where fear expected resistance. In traffic, where horns and tempers rise, let the robe be felt and the armor of light remain unsoiled. You are not contending, you are consenting. You are not correcting, you are beholding. The Spirit of God is upon me. Do not think that to be a temple is to become fragile, easily shattered by contact with the ordinary. The temple is not a glass house. It is a dwelling of God. It is resilient because it does not run on personal might. In Him we live and move and have our being. Walk into complexity as you would walk into sunlight without effort. Sign the contract if it belongs to grace. Decline it if it violates the inner peace. You do not consult fear, you consult the silence. You do not import an outside wisdom. You abide in the wisdom that abides in you. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God, and then be still long enough to receive what was already present. Keep the refrain close, not as a continuous chant, but as a steady returning. Wherever I am, the presence and power of God is. Let it meet the inbox. Let it meet the bill. Let it meet the child's question and the elder's sigh. Let it go before you into rooms where you once felt small. The presence and power of God is. If a day brings correction, receive it without self-defense. If a day brings praise, receive it without self-inflation. Neither flattery nor blame has a second power to confer. The robe remains, the light remains, the temple remains. And here's the pastoral charge. I lay upon your heart, tenderly but firmly. Never again walk the streets as a mere human. Walk as temple. Walk as the living sanctuary of one presence and one power. This is not arrogance, it is humility. The surrender of a separate self and the recognition of the I, that is God being God. When you forget, and at first you will do not mourn, return. One breath, one remembrance, one inward glance, and the robe settles on your shoulders again. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Believe it as present tense, and let it shape your gait, your glance, your smallest reply. Fearless in love we go, not brave because we have sharpened our will, but fearless because perfect love has cast out fear. Not protected because we hold a shield high, but safe because there is nothing to oppose one. The kingdom of God is within you. Carry it as you would carry no burden at all, because the kingdom carries you. And so the world you touch is quietly transfigured, not by your hand, but by the presence that has consented to show itself as your life. God is the only power. Wherever I am, the presence and power of God is. Let this be your going, step by step, breath by breath, until even the steps and the breaths are recognized as God living himself, and the temple walks the earth in peace. Beloved, let us make this very simple and very faithful. A rule of life is not a burden. It is a doorway we agree to open morning and evening so that the one who indwells may reveal himself as our day. Keep at least 2 periods of centering each day. Upon waking, before you enter noise or news, sit in upright ease and consent. If you can, give 18 minutes to silence. If a morning requires less, keep faith to the form and let God keep the substance. In the evening, before sleep, claims the senses, return and sit again. Our only doing is consenting and gently returning. The work is God's. The power of God is made manifest in the silence that follows the stating of truth. Between these 2 anchorings, plant small pauses like lamps along a path. Use a promise as a bell, then be still for a few breaths. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Silence. Lo, I am with you always. Silence. I and the Father are one. Silence. Do not make of these words a mill wheel. Let them be doorbells that bring you to the threshold and allow the silence to usher you through. At noon or at any doorway, the office threshold, the kitchen, the room where difficult conversation waits, let a single line of Scripture steady you, and then be quiet. In that quiet, belief matures into demonstration. Let your wellspring be Scripture in present tense, not as memory only, but as living climate. Begin at Genesis 1 and never deviate. All that God made is good. Say it softly within, as now all that God made is good, and I stand in that goodness now, and then be still. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He restoreth my soul. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Speak one phrase, then yield it into silence. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Speak it once, not as defense, but as the simple light of one power, and be quiet. I and the Father are one. Whisper it, and then let even the whisper rest. In this rhythm, word, and hush, recognition and release, the temple is kept, the lamp is trimmed, and demonstration appears without might or manipulation. Make your practice practical. Before an email, let a breath and a promise precede the words. Then write from stillness. Before a meal, pause and know, in him we live and move and have our being. And then partake in peace. If a sensation or report claims urgency, do not argue. Withdraw the belief in the second power. God is the only power. Say it once and be still until the climate changes. If you forget during the rush of the day, do not lament, return. One breath, one remembrance, and the robe settles again upon your shoulders. This is humility, not bravado. This is the temple of the living God, not a place we visit, but what we are in God's knowing of himself. Remember this measure of growth. Recognition makes you a true student. Faithfulness to silence matures belief into demonstration. Day by day, fear loosens without a struggle. Supply flows without bargaining. relationships soften without control. Not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. When the night comes, close the day as you began it, sit, consent, rest, offer no verdict upon your practice, offer gratitude and quiet. The line remains unbroken, and you sleep within the everlasting arms. And so I leave you with a benediction that is not mere speech, but the atmosphere of your going. Be not afraid, the Spirit of God is upon me. God is the only power. I will never leave you nor forsake you. I and the Father are one. This is the temple of the living God, walking out its doors and yet never leaving. And so it is.